This is nothing. You guys even dared to challenge the cannibals. Showing us the way is a piece of cake, ha ha ha." The strong man laughed heartily. The next day, Yuyi's 12-man squad quickly split into groups. 2 men led the tribal alliance. Investigation team back. One of them, a fellow from the Eagle tribe, was responsible for maintaining contact using his giant Azuka eagle, a perfect match for the job. The other was a whiz with a compass, a master pathfinder. However, it was said that these people were going to take a detour to another place, to find another tribal alliance group hanging out on the high plains. Those guys weren't good at raising livestock, but they were as fierce as tigers when hunting in groups. They also believed in the slate prophecies, making them one of us, and they were close by, making it convenient for a visit. Yuya's 10-man squad also acquired 3 indigenous guides, exceeding the original number by 1. Finding the enemy's lair now seemed like a sure thing. Several days flew by. Back in Hanyang City, it was time for transplanting the 2nd season of rice. The seedlings had already grown to a foot tall. The progress on the teaching building slowed down, with only a few foremen overseeing the slaves' work, while everyone else was busy transplanting rice in the fields. The kids playing in the square also found their true loves. The boys played football and tossed sandbags full of wild energy. The girls jumped rope and played Wuziqi, a quiet game with a touch of fierce competition. Wuziqi, this simplest and most direct of board games, had become all the rage throughout the village. Every day after work, families would finish their meals and you would play a few rounds with Shaudi by the roadside in front of their homes. Each time, it would attract a large crowd of spectators, adults and children alike, packing the area tightly. At first, you used a wooden chessboard, but it was too laborious to make, hindering the great revival of Wuziqi. An idea struck. You just use the chalk you normally used for teaching to draw a chessboard on the ground. Simple and direct. Then you and Xiaodi, one using broken twigs, the other using small stones, played in this incredibly low-tech way, having a blast. The tribespeople watched for a few days and quickly followed suit, getting the new skill. Watching the children playing wildly by the roadside, you felt a surge of contentment. What adult wouldn't want to see children well-fed, well-clothed, and happy? Of course, you couldn't spend every day playing with the kids. You had to continue striving for the tribe's stars and sea. Of course, hard work always pays off. Your diligent efforts during this time had resulted in a bumper harvest. The 5 seeds he had planted at home had all sprouted, which was simply fantastic news. 2 soybeans had already sprouted tender green shoots, and the 3 corn seeds had also grown into small, trumpet-shaped seedlings, ready to shoot upwards. Summer-planted corn matured in 3 months, about 10 days faster than the Han tribe's current rice crop. It was definitely a promising crop, the future staple food. There was another crop that grew even slower than corn and rice, and that was wheat. You had planted the wheat in the spring along with the rice, and now, 5 months later, the 2nd season of rice was being transplanted, while the wheat was just ripening. When planting in the spring, you had chosen the newly reclaimed planting area on the east bank for the wheat field, planting a total of 5 mo. Moreover, these 5 mo were deliberately not planted together, and the row spacing and density were also different, just to conduct a comparative experiment to find the most suitable planting method. What surprised you was that the wheat from these 5 mule was not of the same variety, but of 3 different types. You weren't sure if the seeds were originally mixed or if it was due to a genetic mutation caused by the change of location. One type was similar to the original seeds, brought by Yu Fu, with long awns on the golden ears of wheat. Each awn was half the length of a little finger, and the entire ear of wheat, including the awns, was almost 8 centimeters in diameter. In short, the awns were incredibly long. The other 2 types had much shorter awns. One had awns less than 2 centimeters long, and the other was even more extreme, having no awns at all, completely bald. However, since the varieties were different, they definitely couldn't be mixed in the future. So you started to personally select seeds for the next batch of wheat. For a high yield, you couldn't just mindlessly harvest with a sickle, you had to use scissors. This was delicate work, requiring you to choose the wheat with the most ears and the strongest growth as mothers so that their babies could be as excellent as their mothers. Basically, like father, like son, unless both parents had plastic surgery. After selecting the best of the 3 types of wheat for seed, the rest could be harvested. But the 3 varieties still had to be kept separate, because you wanted to do a small experiment to see if there was wheat or barley, also known as kinkei, among these 3 types. You had seen wheat fields before, but only seen them. If you were asked to distinguish between wheat and barley, you wouldn't be able to. You only knew from textbooks that barley doesn't ferment easily and is generally used to make unleavened foods or used by Tibetan herders to make yak butter tea, while wheat ferments easily and is often used to make steamed buns, dumplings, bread, and other leavened foods. Distinguishing between kinkei and wheat was also very simple. Just grind all 3 varieties into flour, ferment them separately, and then compare them. Even if you didn't recognize them, couldn't you still compare them? A fool has a fool's way. You personally selected the superior seeds and then let the tribesmen directly cut off the ears of wheat with scissors, keeping the 3 types of wheat separate. After harvesting everything, the remaining stalks were cut down with sickles. You instructed them to till the 5 mu of land again and use it as a vegetable garden, and he would choose a place in the vegetable garden to plant another batch of wheat. It's best not to continuously plant the same crop on the same piece of land. You understood this principle. The rice paddies had always been planted with rice before, but that was unavoidable because the Han tribe currently only had 1 type of grain seed. They could only compensate for the loss of soil fertility by adding more fertilizer. The newly harvested wheat was spread out on the square to dry, and then the ears of wheat were crushed with a small cart to make the grains fall out. Once all the grains had fallen out, they were shoveled up and tossed into the air. A shovel of wheat was scooped up and tossed high into the air. The already detached husks, being lighter, would be blown away by the wind, while the heavier grains would fall to the ground. This most primitive method was used to complete the threshing of the wheat, after which it was further dried. As for wheat, it needs to be repeatedly sun-dried for several days until it's completely dry. Firstly, the reduced moisture content makes it easier to store, preventing it from getting moldy in the warehouse. Secondly, it can also ripen any seeds that haven't fully matured yet. Also, while drying the wheat, you need to assign a few kids to keep an eye out and prevent those greedy little birds from coming to steal a snack. V. After 3 days of drying, the 3 types of wheat grains were perfectly crisp. It was summer now, hot as a steamer, and there had been no rain these past few days, so the grain dried very quickly. With the preparations complete, it was time to conduct the experiment to distinguish between barley and wheat. You had someone weigh out 3 jin of each type of wheat, making sure to label them carefully, and then sent them one by one to the mill to be ground into flour. The Han tribe didn't have a dedicated mill for grinding wheat yet, but they had previously built a windmill-powered oil press. The oil press also needed to grind the raw materials into powder, then stir-fry them in a pot before extracting the oil. However, temporarily grinding some wheat was a piece of cake. The 3 types of wheat were handed over to the people at the oil press to be ground, and you weren't idle either. You had to go prepare the secret weapon that would make the flour ferment. Yeast powder? What's that? It doesn't exist. However, the first leavened dough in the world was certainly not made with yeast powder. There are 2 theories about leavened dough. The first theory is that a long time ago, around 2600 BC, there was a poor Egyptian slave who made baked cakes for his master. These cakes were fancy, made with honey water and flour. One night, the cakes weren't finished baking and the guy fell asleep and the fire went out. As a result, during the night, the raw dough began to expand. When the slave woke up, he found the dough was twice as big as the night before. He was so scared that he quickly stuffed the dough back into the oven, thinking that this way no one would know he had been slacking off. And just like that, the world's first leavened cake was born. The slave was initially worried that there would be something wrong with this spoiled dough, but when it came out of the oven, it was soft and fluffy, incredibly delicious. It was a world of difference from the usual unleavened cakes. Moreover, with the same amount of flour, making it leavened could increase the volume several times over. Thus, this kind of food made from baked leavened dough became popular, and later it was given a fancy name, bread. As for why the raw dough fermented and grew bigger, it might have been because there were wild yeast or bacteria in the flour, water, or honey. After being left overnight, the yeast got excited and started a party in the dough. Of course, this natural fermentation wasn't something that could happen randomly. Honey or other sweet things had to be added because flour needs sugar to ferment. If the dough didn't have sugar added and was placed in a warm place, it would only grow moldy and sour and wouldn't grow bigger at all. The second origin story of leavened dough comes from China. In Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it's said that Zhuge Liang captured Meng Huo 7 times. After pacifying the southern barbarians while crossing the river, he was blocked by the ghosts of the soldiers who had died in battle. Zhuge Liang was so anxious that he racked his brains, and in the end, he could only offer sacrifices to the river god, praying for divine protection. Zhuge Liang was kind-hearted and couldn't bear to use human heads for the sacrifice, so he invented mantu as a substitute. This story, well, it's hard to say if it's true or false, and Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a novel after all. Besides, the book doesn't say how to make leavened dough, only that Zhuge Liang made mantu. Oh, and by the way, mantu at that time were actually buns filled with meat. Between the two stories, what you really need right now is a spoonful of sugar. Last autumn during the market, you bought some wild honey from another tribe. However, that honey had long been distributed, having been given out as a year-end bonus to those in the tribe who had made contributions or worked hard. But this was no big deal. If you wanted natural sugar, there was another place. The hanging thorn cannibal tree in the valley of the Back Mountain north of Hanyang City. The root nodules of the cannibal tree contained natural syrup, which it used as bait to lure prey. But in your eyes, it was simply the sugar jar in your backyard! By the time you sent someone to the back mountain to collect the syrup root nodules, the flour ground at the oil press was also ready. Zhaodi brought the flour back, directly to your house. Husband, why does wheat need to be ground into flour? Can't it be cooked like rice? Grinding it into flour is so much trouble, and it grows so slowly, more than a month slower than rice. Why do we need to plant this stuff? Zhaodi asked, placing the 3 basins of flour on the table, a puzzled look on her face. You wouldn't understand. The biggest advantage of wheat is that it saves water. It doesn't need to be planted in paddy fields. Although it grows slower, it can be planted in places where water is scarce. This alone makes it worth the effort to promote. As you spoke, you started to get busy. He placed 3 pottery basins, each marked with a different Chinese character, and then began to add water and knead the dough. Zhaodi helped from the side, occasionally nodding, listening attentively to your lecture on agricultural knowledge. Also, besides being able to be planted on dry land and growing slowly, wheat is particularly delicious. Especially when ground into flour, it can be transformed into a variety of delicacies. Unlike rice, which can only be cooked into porridge or steamed rice, you continued, kneading the dough. Really? You always say wheat is delicious and can be made into so many delicious things. Then you have to teach me how to make them later, and I'll make them for you every day. After helping you pour the water, Zhaodi also picked up another basin of flour and started learning how to knead dough from you. Don't worry, as long as this experiment is successful, we'll start planting wheat on a large scale. By this winter, we'll be able to eat delicacies made from wheat every day. As you kneaded the dough, you added the cannibal tree's syrup to it, and then slowly kneaded the syrup evenly, allowing it to fully penetrate every corner of the dough. After the syrup had been added to all three doughs and kneaded evenly, it was time to find a warm place to ferment them. It was summer now, the outside temperature was over 30 degrees Celsius, and the temperature was stable. The dough only needed a few hours, at most half a day, to ferment, so it could be placed directly outside. However, to be on the safe side, you still covered the 3 pottery basins with animal skins. This would prevent direct sunlight from drying and hardening the dough, and also add some warmth to the basins. Perfect. The waiting process was, well, boring and long. You weren't sure if there was actually wheat among them. If they were all barley, would you only be able to eat unleavened flatbreads in the future? You also didn't know if kinka could be used to make noodles. If it could, then that would be a silver lining. The thought of all the various noodles invented by the food-loving nation made your mouth water. Ha 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 ha! Even if there was no wheat, this wasn't a loss. Being able to eat noodles every day in the future, just thinking about it made you happy. Dough mixed with syrup was left from morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You finally couldn't take it anymore and went over to lift the animal skins, ready to inspect the goods. This feeling was like buying a scratch-off lottery ticket, nervous and exciting. Chinke or wheat? Whatever, scratch. Cough, lift it, and see. The first basin was uncovered. The flour, originally less than 3 jin, had now expanded to 2, or 3 times its size. Moreover, if you looked closely at the surface of the round dough, you could even see a layer of small holes used for venting, the footprints left when the carbon dioxide produced by the dough's fermentation escaped. This dough had fermented very successfully. You excitedly looked at the mark on the basin and found that it was the type of wheat among the 3 that had medium-length awns. So this was wheat. You finally figured something out. Once you had one, you would have a second. When the first one was identified as wheat, you felt confident. It didn't matter whether the next 2 were wheat or not. The Han tribe now only needed to start planting wheat on a large scale. The second pottery basin was opened, and the dough inside hadn't risen, hadn't grown bigger at all, perhaps slightly, but basically negligible. You specifically looked at the mark on the basin, and it was actually the wheat with the longest awns. It seemed that this one was definitely kinke. Of the 3 types of wheat, one was kinke, one was wheat. So what would this remaining bald one with no awns be? Your curiosity was piqued. Whoosh! You lifted the animal skin on the 3rd basin, and before your eyes appeared a fermented dough similar to the wheat. This dough had also fermented well, expanding at least twice in the same amount of time, similar to the first type. However, after all, these were 2 different varieties. Although they were both wheat and could both ferment, there were definitely still differences. You discovered this difference when you kneaded the dough for the second time. Although both types of wheat could ferment, one was relatively loose and the other was relatively firm. In professional terms, one was high-gluten flour and the other was low-gluten flour. High-gluten flour, as the name suggests, produces dough that is elastic, chewy, and has a good bite, making it most suitable for making dumpling wrappers, wonton wrappers, or noodles. Low-gluten flour is the opposite. Foods made with this type of flour are generally softer, suitable for making softer pastries, such as cakes and bread. Of course, it's not only foreigners who use low-gluten flour. Our great, food-loving country is also very good at using low-gluten flour to make pastries. For example, your favorite jidan gao, egg cake, and zhao gao, date cake, were the white moonlight in your heart. Chief, do you have any more flatbreads at home? Give me 2. The tribespeople swarmed around your house looking like they were about to tear it down if they didn't know better, but there weren't enough flatbreads to go around. There were only 6 jin of flour in total, and Hanyang City had more than 500 households. Even if you made mini flatbreads, there wouldn't be enough for everyone. Fortunately, you were prepared. Besides the flatbreads, there was also a pot of jumbo egg-fried noodles. Those who didn't get a flatbread could at least get a bowl of noodles to try. Wow! Is this what wheat is made of? This stuff is magical. It looks much better than rice grains. It looks delicious at first sight. A foodie tribesman, picking up a chopstick, drooled almost to the ground. Hey, you don't know anything. I heard that this wheat has to be ground. Into flour first, add water, just like kneading clay to make figurines, you can knead it however you want. Another expert tribesman proudly explained, "Tsk, you're all wrong. The chief said that this wheat can also be cooked into porridge, but it can't be steamed like rice. Grinding it into flour is for eating it in different ways." A teenager interjected, his eyes gleaming as if he were the embodiment of truth. Hey, you guys, are you eating or not? There's a long line behind you. My child is about to cry from hunger. A tiger mom holding a child yelled at the top of her lungs. The experts immediately backed down, quickly taking their bowls and slipping to the side to continue their academic discussion. The tiger mom, holding her child, proudly received her share. You, standing at the door, watched this group of tribespeople going crazy for a bite to eat, and you felt incredibly happy. The flour promotion plan was a great success. This wheat was no ordinary thing. After rice, it was another pillar staple food for the Han tribe. It didn't need much water and grew quickly. Although it was a little slower than rice, it was definitely a promising crop. With wheat, the Han tribe's granary would be even fuller. If it was rotated with rice, the yield would be tisk tisk. Just thinking about it made your mouth water. Only when people are full can they live a good life. Who wouldn't want to say goodbye to the days of hunger? The tribe's people seemed to have already seen the happy life of the future, and they were all beaming with joy. What they didn't know was that while they were cheering for the flour, you had already quietly started cultivating the seeds for 2 other mysterious grains. What surprised you even more was that someone had actually delivered the corn and soybeans you had been longing for. This was like getting a pillow when you're sleepy, and you almost fainted with joy. The ones who delivered the grain were the tech geeks from the Shin tribe. They had created a miniature version of a small cart and a deluxe bamboo animal-powered cart. But this animal-powered cart was just a large toy. The wheels and axles were all made of bamboo. You couldn't help but want to complain. Are you guys trying to fly to the sky? What can these bamboo tubes pull? Wouldn't it fall apart if 2 people sat on it? However, it was precisely because of these problems that the Shin tribe was very serious about the grain for carts plan proposed by the caravan leader. The Shin tribe's caravan this time was a luxury lineup with 120 people and 300 cattle and horses. Elder Shang personally led the team. What a show. In addition to the usual traded goods, they also specially prepared gifts for the Han tribe to exchange for carts, as well as food for the team. This was the first time the Shin tribe had put on such a large display. Their goal was to find the Han tribe and complete the great plan of exchanging grain for carts. The squad leader who came last time had already said that the Han tribe had bought wool from the nomadic people and would definitely go back to sell woolen cloth next time. The tech geeks of the Shin tribe were slowly making their way to the grassland. They had no idea that the dream car they were so eager for had already been prepared by the Han tribe. They were still thinking of selling goods along the way, a speed that even a snail would be ashamed of. On the Han tribe's side, Yu Fu leading. The caravan also embarked on their journey under your earnest teachings. This display was even more exaggerated than the Shin tribes. At your command, the newly joined steppe barbarians led the way, plus 2 elite cavalry squads, totaling 76 people. This was the Han tribe's dream team lineup, each and every one of them the elite of the elite. Each person was equipped with 3 mounts and a set of custom-made armor covering them from head to toe with a protection rate of 98%. Even the mounts had their own battle robes. Although they were made of cowhide, they were more than, i.e., enough to deal with the enemy's bamboo bows and bamboo arrows. The new generation of cavalry went the heavy armor route. Since there wasn't time to mass-produce recurve bows, they couldn't play the mounted archery tactic, so they went straight for heavy cavalry. These 2 cavalry squads were human tanks. Their weapons, equipment, and training mode could all be summed up in one word: charge. The weapons of the heavy cavalry were quite fancy. Each person had a bayonet, which was actually an elongated spearhead, half a meter long but without a shaft. You thought, anyway, this thing is disposable. If it hits someone, it probably won't be pulled out, so let them find their own shafts. Picked up, stolen, or chopped down themselves. Anything goes. In addition to the disposable cavalry lance, there was also a big killer, the Imperial Guard saber. This was the treasure that they had wanted to equip before but didn't have time to mass produce. This saber had a blade length of 1 meter and 25 centimeters, a handle length of 40 centimeters, and an iron ring at the end. Standing upright, it was almost as tall as a person. The blade was straight, but the front part had a sexy curve, making it easier to cut people. This was the main weapon of the heavy cavalry. When the battle started, everyone would go into battle in full armor. First, a wave of cavalry lance charge, smashing the enemy's formation to pieces, then turning their horses around, holding up their big sabers, and charging in again to harvest a wave. After running back and forth like this a few times, it was estimated that there wouldn't even be anyone left breathing on the other side. The armor of the heavy cavalry was still, made of cowhide, painted black, looking quite intimidating. However, this time it was upgraded. Arm guards were added, cowhide tubes covering the forearms from the back of the hand to the elbow. The upper body had shoulder pads added, and a cape-style large arm guard covering from the shoulder to the elbow, protecting the entire upper body tightly. The lower body was the same. The cowhide short boots could already be used as armor, and leg guards were added to the calves from the ankle to the knee. The skirt of the upper body armor hung directly down to the ankles. When riding on horseback, the wide skirt could cover both legs tightly. The helmet had also been revamped, changing from the original cowhide sewing to a gold silk vine woven frame plus cowhide cover. This sturdiness was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. What's even more awesome is that the original bronze forehead guard became a hook used to hang what? Of course it was a bronze mask. That's right, you equipped the heavy cavalry with metal masks, armoring even the most vulnerable face. A circle of cowhide skirt was also added to the lower edge of the helmet, covering the neck, throat, and shoulders. Although it wasn't full metal armor, at that time, this equipment was extravagantly luxurious. The most common weapons used by the nomadic peoples of the grasslands were bows and arrows. Swords. They didn't exist. Stone axes. Maybe 1 or 2. Spears? Don't even think about it. Even if they had them, they couldn't use them. Before the stirrup, riding and shooting arrows was fine, but if you tried to charge with a cavalry lance, the scene would be too beautiful to watch. 2 people charging at each other on horseback could reach a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. At this time, a warrior without stirrups, holding a cavalry lance and hitting the enemy, what would happen to him? He would lose control of his body due to the lack of stirrups, be thrown off his horse by the force of the impact, and then be trampled into mincemeat by the chaotic hooves. Therefore, before the stirrup, cavalry lances and sabers were all nonsense. Even mounted archery was limited in output due to the lack of stirrups. Those with stirrups could definitely draw a harder bow than those without. The Han tribe didn't have cavalry short bows, so they could only develop heavy cavalry, charging through the enemy's rain of arrows to engage in melee combat. This was the correct way to use heavy cavalry. These 400-plus rolls of plain woolen cloth were the fruit of blood and sweat of the Han tribe for more than a month. They worked overtime to rush them out, not even bothering with beautification. Why? Because it was time-consuming, laborious, and expensive. Besides, this was originally for export, so why bother making it so exquisite? Being able to exchange them for real money as quickly as possible was the key. However, as the source manufacturer, the Han tribe's profit was also considerable. An adult sheep, on average, could yield 8 kilograms of wool. After processing, it could be woven into a piece of cloth 2 meters wide and 10 meters long. In other words, 16 jin of wool could produce 20 square meters of woolen cloth. This cloth was thin, less than 500 grams per square meter, perfect for wearing in spring, summer, and autumn. It was a cooling sensation. This was the Han tribe's export hit. After all, in the dead of winter, those nomadic tribes still had to wear animal skins. No matter how thick the woolen cloth was, it couldn't compare to the warmth of a sheepskin coat. If they produced it, they wouldn't be able to sell it. There's a saying, the market determines the product. This saying was perfectly applicable here. With this thin woolen cloth, the difference between the Han tribe's selling price and purchase price was enough to make one's jaw drop. The price you set, one piece of cloth 2 meters long and 2 meters wide, could be exchanged for the wool of 2 sheep, or 1 sheepskin with wool in exchange for 4 meters of cloth, 1 live sheep in exchange for 6 meters of cloth. Lambs were also acceptable regardless of gender, size, or age. This price was a bit dark. Looking at wool and woolen cloth alone, the difference was tenfold. 1/5 of a sheep's wool, after the Han tribe's magical touch, could be exchanged for the wool of 2 sheep. Then the Han tribe could use this wool to weave another 20 meters of cloth, exchange it for the wool of 10 sheep, weave another 100 meters of cloth. This was the power of technology, a blatant commercial plunder. Based on this price difference, everyone in the Han tribe would be able to have woolen blankets in the future. Your plan to replace cotton with wool was not just a pipe dream. Just take these 400-plus rolls of cloth. They actually only used 1/5 of the raw materials. The remaining 4/5 were the Han tribe's pure profit. Just give the Han tribe some time, and this wool could be turned into fashionable clothes for the tribe's people, bed sheets on the beds, and blankets to cover them. The Han tribe would be able to say goodbye to the hard days of only being able to wear animal skins in winter. And this was just the small profit of exchanging wool. What about exchanging sheepskins? What about live sheep? Based on the calculation of 6 meters of cloth for 1 sheep, an ordinary female worker in the Han tribe, using a flying shuttle loom, could weave 10 meters of cloth a day, which was equivalent to earning 1.5 live sheep a day. This was much more exciting than hunting, and the key was that it was safe and stable. Where else could you find such a good deal? In the past, the Han tribe used the market to make a name for itself. Now they were using the market to recruit soldiers and horses, expanding their population size. Today's foreign trade was making the Han tribe filthy rich, and this was the big move to improve the National Happiness Index. As you said, trade prospers the nation. Nearly 300 horses, more than a dozen cattle-pulling carts, 48 luxury cars, 76 elite heavy cavalry, 80 caravan elites, fully loaded with iron pots, iron spoons, iron scissors, various high-end ceramics, wooden barrels, plain woolen cloth, pure, white, rich, and beautiful salt. This was the caravan of the Han tribe's expedition this time, and their luxurious configuration. They would charge all the way south from the east bank of the small river, first having a friendly exchange with the tribes in the mountains along the way, and then exiting the canyon, entering the vast grassland, reaching the destination of this transaction. However, this time you had a small request for Yu Fu. Try to explore as far south as possible, find the tribe with bamboo, have a good talk with them, and invite them to move beyond a safe distance, leaving enough activity space for the Han tribe. Otherwise, they would be beaten every time they were seen. Dare to compete with the Han tribe for business? Then there was nothing more to say. Yu Fu kept your words firmly in mind. Being able to go out and have fun and also bring money to the tribe, letting the tribe's people live a good life, this job was simply perfect for Yu Fu's taste. He loved this nomadic life, but at the same time he also wanted a safe and comfortable home. These two requirements seemed incompatible, but you had perfectly solved them. Therefore, Yu Fu was loyal to you, and he carried out your orders without fail. At the same time as the caravan set off, the thousands of mu of land in the new city area had also been planted, and the canals for drawing water had also been dug. Dashu, as the CEO of the new city area, followed your instructions and had Dolly lead a team of 200 tribespeople, 300 laborers, along with some cattle, horses, vehicles, production tools, and the Han tribe's luxury yacht, to the Salt Lake to mine. The Han tribe's iron ore was running out, and they needed to stock up another batch this year. To the north of Hanyang City, 2 scout squads with the Tribal Alliance investigation team had also reached the highland grasslands they mentioned, and found another cooperative hunting Tribal Alliance. The two sides were negotiating amicably about visiting the Han tribe. The previous group who had learned animal husbandry were clearly promoting the Han tribe with great effort. At present, the communication between the two sides was still smooth. Most of the leaders of this hunting alliance were very interested in the Han tribe. It was estimated that in a few days they would follow them south to Hanyang City to broaden their horizons. Some were happy, some were worried. While the two tribal alliances in the north were happy about visiting the Han tribe, the leader of the Lu tribe, Ju, in the mountains south of Hanyang City, was already so worried that his face looked like a bitter gourd. He regretted it to no end. He shouldn't have told Yu Fu that there was a big lake to the south. As a result, he didn't expect that Yu Fu and the others, in order to find the big lake, actually found the grassland and hooked up with the nomadic tribes, doing big business. Every time they passed by him, they could bring back countless cattle, horses, and sheep. Chieftain Lu was so depressed. Previously, he was clearly the VIP customer of the Han tribe, and the flowered pigs raised by his family could be sold at a good price. Especially during the first transaction with the Han tribe, when Yu Fu had not yet joined the Han tribe, so he didn't feel bad about those goods and gave him a great discount. The selling price was low to the point of being outrageous. But ever since the Han tribe had a new source of livestock, the flowered pigs of their Lu tribe had begun to depreciate, and now they were almost devalued to the point where they couldn't even afford salt. Ju is feeling incredibly frustrated. Right now! It used to be that the Han tribe could only buy pigs from him, but now it's the other way around. He's the one groveling, begging the Han tribe to buy his pigs. Why? Because the Lu tribe still needs salt. The Han tribe is now flush with cash, having acquired a large number of cattle and sheep from the grasslands. That guy, Yu Fu, always returns with a grand procession of livestock. Even if Ju proactively goes door-to-door selling, he doesn't dare to ask for a high price. If he prices them too high, they simply say, "No, thank you." After all, they have mutton, so who needs pork? The Han tribe isn't stupid. Why would they insist on buying his pigs? With that money, they could exchange for more cattle and horses, which can also do work. Selling is selling. At least he can still exchange for some salt and supplies. But the Han tribe has too many good things, and Ju covets them all. However, the Lu tribe only has so many pigs, a few hundred in total. These pigs might not seem like much to the Han tribe, but to the Lu tribe, they're their lifeline. He can't sell all his pigs to the Han tribe, but they can't go without salt. So what to do? Ju has a brainwave, exchange pigs with other tribes. The Han tribe's caravan travels south, so it certainly doesn't only pass through the Lu tribe, and it's impossible that only the Lu tribe has done business with the Han tribe. The problem is simple then. Other nearby tribes must have also exchanged for some salt from the Han tribe. Since he can't get a good price from Yufu, he'll just buy from his neighbors. It's a good idea, but reality always likes to play jokes. There are always some little surprises. One day, Ju, the leader of the Lu tribe, brings a few underlings and drives several piglets, excitedly heading to the territory of a neighboring tribe, hoping to exchange the piglets for some salt. But when he gets there, he's dumbfounded. The neighbors are bustling with activity, packing up their belongings. It looks like they're moving. Primitive people have low productivity, and moving is a major undertaking. Rebuilding their homes and finding food takes at least a year or two to recover from. If they move to a God-forsaken place, the entire tribe could be wiped out. Therefore, they usually choose a lucky place, build a safe house, and live there for generations. Unless they encounter some catastrophic disaster, they won't move for hundreds of years, but these guys are packing up and preparing to run away. Ju is completely baffled, looking at his busy neighbors. He quickly grabs a strong man and asks, "Little brother, you're moving? Why are you moving? Where are you going? Where's your leader?" The strong man was working hard, and suddenly being grabbed made him a little irritated. But when he sees the few oinking piglets on the ground and takes a look at Ju's face, he immediately recognizes him. This is the guy next door, the leader of the Lu tribe. The strong man immediately changes his tune and explains with a smile, "Oh, it's the leader of the Lu tribe. Are you looking for our leader? He's not here, but you can talk to our elder about it. See, the elder is over there. You can ask him." "Oh, all right then." Ju sees that this guy is just a worker and probably doesn't know any inside information, so he follows the directions and finds the other tribe's elder. "Elder, you're moving? Where are you going? Moving is so troublesome. Why are you moving so suddenly?" The other elder is taken aback, but he immediately recognizes the person in front of him as the guy next door and quickly extends a warm welcome. "We are indeed moving. As for the reason, it's a bit complicated. Simply put, it's to make the tribe better off. That's why we're moving. Otherwise, it would be very inconvenient for us," the elder answers firmly. You'd better tell me the complicated version. Why are you moving? Will moving make things better? What kind of divine logic is this?" Although Ju is the leader of a large tribe of several hundred people, he still respects these elderly, wise men. These people may be old, but the older the ginger, the spicier it is. They have rich experience and profound knowledge, which young people cannot compare to. Well, if you're not in a hurry, I'll tell you. Last year, a group of people came from the north with ox carts. Their men all had their hair tied up and they called themselves the Han tribe, specifically coming here to exchange goods with other tribes, you know. "I remember they exchanged a lot of pigs from you," the elder begins to tell the story. "Yes, I know about that. Does your move have anything to do with the Han tribe?" Ju nods, indicating that he is aware of the situation, and gestures for the elder to continue telling the story. "That's right, it's that Han tribe. They have a kind of divine salt that gives you strength and makes you less tired when working. We also bought some from the Han tribe, but they sell it so expensively that we went bankrupt after buying it a few times. Speaking of which, when our leader led a team to inspect the Han tribe, it was quite a lively scene along the way. Wow, it was packed with people, like a bustling market. After inquiring, it turned out that they were all going to the Han tribe to work. On the way, they also found many haunted houses. Oh no, abandoned tribal settlements. After asking around, they learned that the entire tribe had moved to the Han tribe to live the high life, and these haunted houses had become everyone's highway rest stops. Ju, the leader of the Lu tribe, was puzzled. Moved out? The whole tribe? What major project is the Han tribe undertaking? Why do they need so many people? And they provide food, 3 meals a day. Are they making people eat tree bark? Also, those families with children, what can the little kids do? They even bring the babies who are still breastfeeding? Are they just joining the fun? The neighboring elder began to show off proudly. Hey, you don't know this, do you? The Han tribe is not just boasting. You haven't been there, so you don't know how powerful they are. Do you know how many people are in the Han tribe? Our leader said that the Han tribe's branch in the north has a population of over 7,000. Over 7,000. That's more than 10 Lu tribes combined, and that's not all. Our leader said that they have another branch of this size. They call that place a city. Ju's eyes almost popped out of his head. Oh my God, so many people! The Han tribe is really aiming for the sky. Wait, that's not right. They already have enough people. Why are they still recruiting? Heh, you've hit the nail on the head. The Han tribe does have many people, but they also need to eat. I heard from our leader that the one in the north is a newly built community of the Han tribe, and it's still empty. They say they're going to build new houses for everyone, and they're luxury versions. You can have a fire inside in the winter. It's super warm. But their own people also need to stockpile food, so the construction work is outsourced. That's why they're recruiting so many people. Also, you asked about the little kids. The Han tribe actually wants little kids to work. They raise a large flock of sheep, the kind with horns on their heads, 4 legs, and eat grass. Our leader said that the Han tribe's new community, not counting cattle and horses, has over 4,000 sheep alone. That's more than the population of 7 of your tribes. Those little kids, it's tough for them to carry bricks, but herding sheep is a piece of cake, right? They drive the sheep out to graze during the day and drive them back at night, just like your tribe herding pigs. These shepherds can also get 3 square meals a day, but they don't get paid. Only food for the day. However, as long as they herd sheep, the Han tribe will also provide milk powder for the even smaller babies who are still breastfeeding. As for the women, they can cook for the Han tribe and take care of the children at the same time. The men do the heavy labor in exchange for shining salt. So, some tribes, it's hard for them to hunt, so they simply move the whole family to work for the Han tribe. The elder explained everything in one breath. Ju was stunned, but he understood. With so many sheep in the Han tribe, his own brother, Pig, naturally became less valuable. This is understandable, but he still had a lot of questions. Before, he didn't know much about the Han tribe, but now that he's heard so many gossips, he's even more curious. They already have enough people, and now they have to support so many more. What do they eat? And 3 meals a day. Even if they raise thousands of sheep, they can't kill them all, right? That won't last long either? Ju continued to pursue his most important question about eating. Ha, you're in luck this time. I happen to have some good stuff that our leader brought back, and someone is making it. We'll let you try it when it's ready. The elder laughed heartily. Oh, what good stuff? Mutton? An underling beside. Leader Lu couldn't help but interject. No, it's a kind of white grass seed. They call it dami, rice. You can add water to dami to make porridge, and if you add less water, you can steam it into dry rice. Rice is their staple food, and the workers eat rice every day. Besides rice, each meal also includes boiled meat with salt, or meat broth, or vegetables stir-fried with something called oil. Oh, right, they also occasionally eat fish, the kind that swim in the water without fur or legs. They eat better than our tribe usually does. Hey, look, here it is. Speak of the devil. Come. Try the dami that our leader brought back from the Han tribe. And this woman who's cooking, she trained in the Han tribe before. Look at this venison broth, how white it is. It has shining salt in it. Have some and try it. Just then, a woman who had cooked in the Han tribe before brought out the feast, a large pot of white dami rice and a small pot of clear stewed venison. The sweet aroma of the rice, and although the meat broth was clear stewed, it also had salt in it, and the bones were broken and stewed together, making the broth white. It looked mouth-watering. The woman brought 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks, served rice for the 2, and then retreated to prepare food for the others. Come, eat. This should be the last meal. Our leader didn't bring back much dami, and it's gone when it's gone. But we'll be able to continue eating this delicious rice soon. The elder picked up his bowl, scooped up a mouthful of rice, and said, Ju, the leader of the Lu tribe, also picked up his bowl, wanting to try this dami rice, but he didn't know how to use chopsticks. The elder didn't know how to use them either. The 2 wooden sticks were spasming in his hands, unable to open, and could only be used to shovel rice into his mouth. Ju could only clumsily follow suit. Elder, you just said, continue eating this rice? What did you mean? Are you going to work for the Han tribe again? By the way, when I came, I saw you packing up. Where are you going? Ju asked while eating. Sigh. What else can we do? Of course, we're moving the whole family to the Han tribe. There's something you don't know. Although the Han tribe's new community has thousands of people, our leader heard that these people also came from dozens of tribes joining together, and they only joined the Han tribe not long ago. That's not all. Their chief also said that those who previously packaged themselves to work in the Han tribe are now wanting to settle down. After joining the Han tribe, their original tribes become families, and in the future, they can still find their fellow villagers by their names. When our chief saw this, he thought, wow, life after joining the Han tribe is really great. And there's no discrimination. Whatever the veteran members have, they have too. So he got the idea of taking us all to jump ship as well. He came back this time specifically to discuss this with me, and I agreed. I've seen through it all now. If we can live a good life without worrying about food and clothing, does it matter what the tribe is called? The survival of our people is what's most important. Besides, there's still the surname, so the previous tribe isn't really canceled. So I agreed. Chief Lu, next time we meet, maybe we'll be colleagues. After this meal, we also have to get going. I see you brought some piglets with you. If I'm not mistaken, you want to trade them for something, right? If it's for white salt, I advise you to save your energy. We don't have much white salt left either. The chief didn't bring any back this time. He said that after we get our huku in the Han tribe, white salt is distributed per capita, so there's no need to hoard it ourselves, so he didn't bring any back. The elder, while burying himself in his work, looked around affectionately, as if he wanted to engrave this old nest where he had lived for most of his life into his heart. Who knows if he'll ever be able to come back and see it again in this lifetime. Meanwhile, Chief Lu Ju, sitting opposite him, was completely dumbfounded, forgetting even to eat. This news was a real bombshell. It blasted Chief Lu crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. What? Your tribe has over 300 people. You're just packing up and joining the Han tribe like that? Isn't that a bit rash? If you feel that your numbers are too small and you need to find a backer, you can come to our Lu tribe. That way we'll have over 1,000 people together. Chief Lu Ju suddenly became agitated. He didn't know why, but he just felt that he should keep these neighbors. Maybe it was because he heard that his neighbors were moving away, and he felt a little panicked. After all, humans are social animals, and they like to huddle together for warmth. The most. When these words came out, the elder was stunned and looked at him in surprise. However, the elder didn't directly refuse, but instead asked a few questions. If we join the Lu tribe, can Chief Lu let us eat our fill every meal without having to go hunting? If we join the Lu tribe, can we eat white salt every day from now on? Sure enough, as soon as these questions came out, Chief Lu Ju immediately lost his voice. He was just acting on impulse. He himself was rushing to trade pigs for salt. So, How could he possibly afford to let others eat salt every meal? This, Chief Lu, don't take it to heart. Listen to an old man's advice. Why don't you send a few people to follow us to the Han tribe for an inspection? Even if you don't plan to jump ship, sending some people to work there and bring back some white salt to improve the diet of the tribe would be good too. The elder interrupted Ju's quibbling and took the initiative to give him an idea. Chief Lu Ju's spirits immediately lifted when he heard this. Wasn't that the purpose of his trip, to trade for some salt? Although he didn't succeed in the trade, he got an inside tip from the elder. The Han tribe was using white salt and supplies as wages to recruit a large number of people. Men, women, old and young, all were welcome. This was like a pie falling from the sky. Although it was still the Han tribe's goods, the supply channel was different. This time, they wouldn't be selling pigs, they would be selling their labor. This move was a guaranteed win. Yes, Elder, that's a good idea. I'll consider it carefully. But even if I find people to work for the Han tribe, it's too late now. And we don't know where their city is, so what do we do? Chief Lu Ju was worried. Again, that's simple. You just need to go north, and before long you'll find a dirt road in the mountains. That road is very flat. There are deep ruts on it, all pressed out by the Han tribe's convoys before. Now there's less grass on that road. If you want to go, just keep going north, find that dirt road, and follow it. The elder continued to offer advice. Chief Lu Ju nodded repeatedly, indicating that he had noted it down. Then, after finishing their meal, they went their separate ways. The elder led his tribe on the road to Beipiao. It is said that their chief was already waiting for them at a service area ahead, which is why Ju didn't see the chief of the neighboring tribe this time. The neighbors left, and Ju also took his people back to his own tribe. The few second brothers who were originally intended to be traded for salt also went home. Time flies, and it's already the 3rd month of summer. The reconnaissance squad, led by Yuye, is getting closer and closer to the cannibals' lair. Meanwhile, the 2-person comedy duo that split off from their squad has successfully reached the highlands and connected with the hunting tribe alliance there. They successfully persuaded them to join the tour group heading south for an in-depth tour of the Han tribe. In the south of the Han tribe, the large-scale sales team led by Yufu is also on its way south across the grasslands, occasionally passing by the returning migrant worker groups. In the more distant southwest, the caravan of the Xin tribe, under the leadership of Elder Shang, is also marching towards the grasslands. Actually, whether it's from the Han tribe to the grasslands or from Bamboo Island to the grasslands, it takes more than a month to travel. Therefore, the probability of the 2 teams which set off almost simultaneously encountering each other is quite high. Moreover, both sides have the intention of accidentally meeting each other, so their encounter on the grasslands is only a matter of time. However, you aren't too worried about this. He equipped the caravan with the most elite cavalry team, and each member is armed with a standard machete. Even if they encounter trouble, they can run away if they can't win. Therefore, you are very confident in them and don't worry about them. The Han tribe still needs to develop, and there are a lot of things waiting for him to do. He doesn't have time to be idle. In June, the rice transplanting work in the new city area has been completed. This year, at least 1 harvest can be reaped, which has reassured everyone. This means that this winter can be a fat year, at least without going hungry. With the food problem solved, the next thing is the houses and firewood for the winter. Fortunately, the new city area has a large population, even more than the Hanyang city area by 2,000 or 3,000 people. And that's not counting the temporary workers from outside. If they are included, the number is even greater. With so many people working on construction, you are very confident that the houses can be built before winter arrives. While construction in the new city area is in full swing, the construction progress in the Hanyang city area is not slow either. The tribesmen are leading the laborers to top off the newly built teaching building. The teaching building was built incredibly fast. Although it's a building, each floor only has 6 classrooms. Adding the corridors and stairs, there are only 6 large open spaces left. The amount of work is actually not much. The wood needed is also doubling in production due to the wind-powered wood processing plant, and the supply for construction is more than sufficient. After the foundation was laid, the walls were all built with blue bricks. The corridors are transparent from north to south with excellent lighting. On the outer wall of each classroom, 3 floor-to-ceiling windows were left. On the side of the classroom facing the corridor, there is a door at the front and back. And on the wall near the corridor, a row of high, narrow windows was opened, just in case the corridor was too long and affected the light in the building. After all, there are no Edison light bulbs now, only oil lamps. However, it's best not to bring oil lamps into the teaching building. It's all made of wood, and if it catches fire, it will be a raging inferno. The teaching building as a whole is a rectangular tube building with classrooms arranged vertically, 3 on each side, a corridor in the middle, and a staircase at each end. This design is symmetrical, stable, solid. After each layer of walls was built, thick wooden boards were added as floorboards. The sturdiness and load-bearing capacity are absolutely no problem, but the maintenance of the wood is a hassle. Wood is afraid of moisture, waxing is too expensive, and painting will wear out over time. Moreover, with so many people walking on it every day, the paint is easily scuffed off. Moreover, these wooden floorboards were not treated with seam waterproofing like the deck of a ship. This resulted in gaps between each piece of wood, which were neither waterproof nor dustproof. If used directly like this, it is very likely that if water is spilled on the upper floor, it will rain on the lower floor. If the children on the upper floor have dirt on the soles of their shoes, the lower floor will eat dirt. Therefore, you had people install ceramic tiles on the wooden floorboards. These ceramic tiles are no different from modern ceramic tiles. They are made by pressing clay into mud cakes, cutting them into squares, drying them, applying a layer of glaze, and then throwing them into a kiln to fire. This thing is actually no different from making bowls, and it can be directly regarded as a large plate, just with different sizes and shapes. The color of the tiles is high-grade gray, which is made by mixing iron ore powder and other stone powders. This color is more stain-resistant than white, but the color is not too dark, which can ensure that the room is bright. After the tiles are made, a layer of tung oil is first applied to the wooden floorboards to moisten them several times. Then, a layer of mud mixed with straw is spread, and then the tiles are laid. Finally, tiles are laid on the floorboards above, and the bottom of the floorboards, which is the ceiling of the next floor, is painted white to make the room brighter. Speaking of this lighting problem, we have to mention the windows. Thanks to the bumper harvest of animal skins last year, the windows currently used by the Han tribe are actually the same old antiques as before. Wooden frames covered with animal skins. These windows are airtight, non-ventilated, and opaque. They are fine for winter use, but it's summer now. These stuffy windows have long been modified by the tribesmen themselves. Some have directly torn off the animal skins, leaving only bare wooden frames. Others have hung a layer of translucent straw mats on them. However, these are not long-term solutions, and they cannot be used in the teaching building. The window material that you want most now is actually paper. Using paper to paste windows, this is something our ancestors have done long ago. It's not black technology. Although white paper is not strong and is afraid of water, it can be brushed with tung oil. Just like making oil paper umbrellas, and after brushing with oil, the transparency of the paper will be even better. Some people may have seen that when oil is dripped on white paper, it becomes translucent and is not afraid of water. That's the principle. In addition, if you feel that the white paper is not strong enough, you can make it a little thicker when making paper. These can be adjusted flexibly. No one stipulates how thick paper must be made. The kind of paper you want depends entirely on your needs. Making paper to paste windows is the new goal set by you. Not only to solve the problems of lighting and waterproofing of the windows, but also because the school has been built, it's impossible not to invent paper and pens, right? How will students go to school? How will they learn? These are all problems. Now, there are no other things that require Yu's attention, so he can take advantage of this free time to fiddle with the paper. Well, toilet paper is also a problem. He no longer wants to solve the problem with dirt clods and leaves.